swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time, the Legion of Doom.
Hello, everybody. Back on the show, we have the Eisner Hugo-winning amazing Tom King, now super producer in Hollywood, I think, right?
I have never won a Hugo. I have lost it 3 times.
Okay, Ringo. Was it Ringo? Is that one that
Ringo?
you won?
I've won.
Okay,
10
take 2. We have the Eisner winning for art, and the Ringo winning Tom King, who's officially a super producer. We are so excited.
Hugo losing Tom King.
Yeah, Hugo losing, but
Hugo
Eisner winning for art.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate your podcast is awesome. I appreciate what you do, and it's nice being on here. And I already feel like a dumbass because you wore your awesome Superman shirt, and I was going to wear mine, and I chickened out at the last second, and I went with by washing my Commander shirt.
Well, it's not like anything big in the Superman world happened today, right? You know, there was no. Speaking of that, what
I watched it like 7 times. Oh my god!
Same. I literally teared up the first time. Like I loved the first teaser, but this trailer just like showed so much more tone, so much more humanity. What were your thoughts on the trailer?
I mean, look, don't take my word for it. I'm completely biased. I've been with this project since day one. But I love this movie. I love this moment. I love the team that made this movie. I think Gunn has made something special and unique. And uniquely awesome, especially to this fan base, the comic book fan base. This feels like such a moment to sort of celebrate 80 years of our outsider medium in the biggest way possible. And I couldn't be more proud of what this team did.
It is very awesome. I thought the super awesome little nod to Mark Waid with the name of the street sign that was on there. Cool. So now I'm like, what could they name after you for the Supergirl movie? Like what?
Nothing. They need to name. No one needs to name anything after me. King Shark was the best thing they ever did. That was after me. It was in the original version of the Suicide Squad. It was just Shark, and they added the King, and I felt that was enough tribute for my life.
Yeah, you know, that's awesome. And we got some comments coming in. Wait, Thomas never won a Hugo. Why am I even watching this? Why am I even doing the interview?
I know. Why am I even here? I should be trying to win a Hugo. I need to write something more science fiction than I'm writing. Ugh. I know. I apologize for my lack of winning Hugos. I apologize to your entire audience.
It's okay. And also the improv skill of like, you know, you're supposed to say yes and no one would have known I made a mistake, you know. But that's awesome. So was the timing of your new Deluxe released for the trailer, or was it random? Was it just good timing, or was it like corporate synergy?
No, the trailer for the movie was mostly to promote the book.
Yes.
And also, you know, if people see it and watch the movie, bonus. But mostly it's to tell people to buy the book, which I appreciate. I think that's DC Studios really stepping up for their comic book fans. No. It's somewhat coincidental and somewhat purposeful in the fact that sort of this book had been out of print for a long time.
Yes.
It's sort of the number one book that people ask me about. Why is it in print? I want to buy it. And I, over a year ago, was like, we need to get this back in print. People keep asking me. And DC was like, no, we're going to hold this for the Superman movie. And I was not happy about that. I was like, no, you're turning down money. Like, no, we're going to hold it. That'll be the moment to release it. We're going to do a big oversized hardcover with a new cover and a new introduction and the whole thing. And they were right and I was wrong, which is not the first time that's happened.
That new cover though, look at that, because I think it did the standard size, which I gifted to another YouTuber, and the trade paperback, were they the same cover or?
Yes, the same cover. Yes.
Okay, so this one was awesome, and then even underneath the dust jacket. Also, I loved this quote right here, where it says, Superman can't save everyone, but he can still try. I just loved it so much.
I have mine right here. I have not. This is my comp copy. I haven't opened yet, so it's alive on. Do you? I love removing the plastic. It's one of my big nerds.
Dude, let's solo layout UI. People love this, man.
If people don't know how to remove plastic, this is a lesson. Hands on both sides, fingers in the middle, and tug. And that's how you get it.
Show them that tug.
Don't pick with your fingers. It's all about it's Tom King. It's all about the tug. That's what we're gonna learn in this.
Yeah, can we have some people that like to clip things, so clip that. Tom King. It's all about the tug.
That's right. And then, I was once at a signing with Jim, and the books came at the very last. Jim Lee, and the books came in the very last second, and there were like 60 books, and all of his assistants were trying to open the books. I was like, step aside.
Let me teach you how it's done.
This is the like, Tom, you're supposed to be here signing. I was like, no, we're gonna have some fun. Rip these open. Oh my god, this is gorgeous. Look at this thing.
It is, right? And we got our first question. Is the deluxe cover new art specifically for the release?
Yes, it's new art specifically released by Andy Kubert, by the entire team, Andy and Sandra and Brad. Obviously Sandra Hope on inks and Andy on pencils and Brad on colors. And he did 3 versions of it. This was kind of the most poetic one. Like there were ones that had more epic, where we kind of put all the characters in the background. There were ones where Superman was flying, but he went with sort of the most poetic, which I think everyone's favorite issue is the last issue, and I think it kind of sums up the whole thing. So I think it's really beautiful. It's very nice. I'm gonna be blowing my nose because my son is giving me a cold, so I apologize for that.
No, I appreciate you powering through.
Snotty face.
No, this is awesome. I mean, they probably better to go with that than one of my favorite panels, which I showed you last time, of Superman when he's really having a hard time during the Flash race. My just the deluxe edition of his like sweaty face on the cover. How do you say no to that one?
And you can see in my back. Oh, there's lots of art back there, but you see I have issue 3, all the art back there. So this is something I absolutely adore. I have all the art from issue 3 up on my wall in a panel grid that I stare at every day, and I wonder, man, why don't I write like that anymore? It's because that was good.
You still write awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Sad stuff and some happy stuff now.
When you lose your 3rd Hugo, you're like, man, I don't have it anymore. So that was.
Do they not give a Hugo for opening plastic off books? Because that's got to be a category, right?
That's my next thing. That has got to be it. I would be good at that. Like if I had to quit my job, and people are like, what would you be really good at? Opening plastics off of DC hardcovers. I mean, that's got to be a profession.
For me, because I get a lot of books. I'm very blessed to get a lot of books coming to me often. I have cats, so I can't tell you, like, if I leave a small bit of the plastic on the ground and then I hear gagging, I'm like, oh no, I left plastic in the room. So it's a never-ending battle to get the plastic away from my cats.
I collect a lot of things, mostly like art and old movie stuff, and I from eBay and from any like random auctions, and they are all sent in the weirdest packages. So I'm an expert opening things without trying to damage what's inside. It has been a challenge, and I failed that challenge. I have put my fingerprints on beautiful art before. It's terrible.
I have hit the scissors into the box and like sliced the dust jacket before.
It's a terrible feeling, right? You're like, I just got this and I just ruined it, and it was me.
Yes.
And you try to blame the packager. You're like, it's your fault somehow. You put the tape in the wrong place. It's not me. But no, it's you. It's you.
Yeah. Darn. So this is good. Someone connecting the dots. So what I'm getting is that the collected edition department is planning the Woman of Tomorrow Absolute for 2026. That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. We'll see what happens. I want so much out of that Supergirl book. I want them to do a small one, a small sized one for the
compact.
A compact. That's what I want really bad. They have on the website. They have a scroll Supergirl for
yes. I got to show off. I was one of the people that the third-party marketing agency from DC reached out to, and I got to show I think they're called DC Goes, where you scroll.
Yes. And Supergirl was one of the first sort of ones they did where they did like a whole comic book that was not made for the platform and had to adjust the paneling and everything. It's super cool. They did it really well.
Anything that gets new people reading comics, if that's like one way where someone on their phone is reading Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow instead of doom scrolling and getting hit with 1,000 ads on Instagram, like that's a net positive for the world,
It's a better way to spend your time. Well, yes. Supergirl, both Supergirl and Up in the Sky are these kind of little magic books that they can they can go to anyone. You don't have to be into comics. You don't have to be into these characters. You don't have to be a grown up. You could be a child, and people and they appeal to people. I've created books that are not like that. You can't just give Human Target or Mr. Miracle books that I love to anybody. It has to be a certain audience that has to sort of absorb that. But these books are much more universal and can spread much easier, which is one of the reasons I love them.
You don't think anyone can just grab a Once in Crowded Sky with no comic book knowledge and read it and enjoy all the references? without having ever read a comic in their life?
Yeah, why not? You know what? I don't get any royalties from that, so please don't buy that for people. No, I would not recommend my novel, or buy it for a penny from eBay from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love an absolute for the Supergirl. Also, can we talk about the fact I felt like all of this big news happened a week after I interviewed you the first time. I asked you about the Batman omnibus and you were all coy and like the deluxes were great. 1 week later, the omnibus gets leaked. And then I felt like it was right before all the awesome news about Love is Everlasting. So like, I just feel like all these bombshells came out like a week after I interviewed you. And I was like, timing is,
It's been a good year for collected editions. Yeah. Cause we had both Helen of Windhorn came out and Animal Pound came out in beautiful editions.
Both are sold out, I think, right?
And both sold out immediately first week. And so they're trying to get them back on shelves as soon as possible. So those came out and they just came out so beautifully.
Yeah. I don't know where my Animal Pound is, but you saw a picture of my cats next to it. So, you know, I snagged a copy.
I got one here. We're showing off books. It's this pretty kind of easy hardcover. You know, it doesn't have the slip jacket, but you get the beautiful hardcover. You get the beautiful everything. It's a nice package, and the colors are gorgeous. My God, this is it's got a Stephen King quote in front. How cool is that? That guy's won some Hugos. He knows what he's doing.
I watched your recent interview with Sal, where you talked about that, and I heard your cream story. Your
it's the most absurd story.
That is really absurd. But I definitely like hearing that story. I definitely like, and then immediately afterwards finishing Black Canary Best of the Best. I was like, dang, she really wants her mom to be proud of her, you know? And I was like, then that story hit me and I was like, no, Tom King, don't make me cry on like unrelated things. I'm making all these connections and influences.
I'm telling you, man, as a writer, you try your best to escape your life, or at least I do. You know, I write about, you know, I live in this little room surrounded by all this nerdy shit. And I write about these people that fly to other planets or fight in the ring. And I just want to get away from me. I want to get into their mindset. I want to be them for a second. And as far as you run from yourself at the end of the day, you find yourself in this book because you're trying to communicate something in your soul to other people's soul. And there's no way to do that without putting part of your soul into it. So yeah, as much as I'm trying to write about everything else, I end up writing about, I don't know, the themes and beauties in the world that appeal to me.
And sometimes you could have direct conversations with your wife in a comic book and get thanked by like the health organization, you know? So sometimes it's good to put your life in these books.
I did. So many babies have been saved by Batman Kills
You are
babies.
Literally a hero, you know.
Yes, there are children who are alive today because of me, and
because your books are aphrodisiac.
Mostly just my 3 children, but I'm sure there's maybe that's probably the limit of the children that are alive today because of me.
I don't know, man. So,
not counting the CIA days.
Comics can be foreplay, you know. You wrote a romance comic. You don't think that that spices things up?
Oh my God, I don't want to. But I've written a lot of romance comics. There's a rare comic I have that doesn't have a make out or a sex scene. Even Vision with 2 robots we had was kind of romantic.
Look, we all know what listening to too much Mozart was, right?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
No one needs to know. But Mike says Stephen King might have a Hugo, but he didn't teach me how to tug. So that puts things into perspective. That kind of makes everything full circle.
I have a legacy. I've always wanted a legacy. Now I have something to live for. I've taught the world how to tug. Oh my God. Now my father would finally be proud of me.
Oh my gosh, dude.
This year at the Hugos, the award for tugging goes to, I'm like, please.
Yes.
Like, Stephen
imagine
King,
if you
fuck again.
Imagine it goes to someone else, like someone else robs you of the award for tugging.
Oh, it would no doubt be true. Do you know that I walked out of the first time I lost an award? I handled it so very poorly.
What was the book like? What was your nomination for?
It was for an old short story I did with the great late J.P. Leone, called Black Death in America, which was it's a title with layers, And it was in black and white. It was a story I was so very proud of, and it was about a black soldier in World War I, and sort of the aftermath of his life after fighting in World War I. It was entirely true. I used his own words that he had used to summarize his life with J.P. Leon's books, and I still think it's one of the best things I ever wrote. And it just happened to be coincidentally, it was those years that John Lewis, famous civil rights warrior John Lewis and congressman, was there because he was doing his series of graphic novels about his own life, and he was presenting this award. And this was a double presentation because John Lewis happened to, at that time, I live on Capitol Hill. He lived like 3 houses down from me, and he knew my children. He didn't know me, but he was the kind of politician who would stop and say hi to kids, And so like he would see my kids who were little then, and he would pick them up and play with them. So we had just a little bit of a connection. This is an American hero, John Lewis, my God. Yeah. And so I was like, and so you're sitting there watching, and he's presenting this award, and I had written this award that's about civil rights. I was like, I'm going to meet John Lewis. I'm going to shake his hand, and I'm going to be like, we know each other. And then we were going to become best friends and play, Parcheesi together. I don't know. Yeah. I had fantasies. We would team up. We win our Hugos. We'd be great. And then they announced Adrian Tomine won, which I'm sure was a beautiful book. And I, as a first-time nominee, turned to the person next to me and said, "Excuse me, I will be going to the bathroom." And I walked to the bathroom, and I just kept on walking. Oh, my God. What a spoiled little brat I was. Because I was just so devastated that I didn't get to win the award. I don't know.
Well, and I apologize. Parcheesi with an American hero,
I didn't get to play Parcheesi. I had such huge.
There was so much more at stake than just an award, so I feel like you can cut yourself a little slack.
Layers. There were layers.
Yeah, there were always layers. I think I sent you a picture of this, but I got to meet Mitch at WonderCon, and it was my first time meeting one of the creators since we've done content for their work, and he gave me this awesome sketch in Mr. Miracle.
Oh my God, that's gorgeous!
Look at that. He shaded it. He did layers.
I am working on some Mr. Miracle stuff right now, which I can't really talk about, but I will at least talk about the fact that it's making me go back to that book. And I was going through, issue by issue and rereading, having not read it in a while. And I'm not speak the words or whatever, but the art is sublime.
We get it. You won an Eisner for the art, Tom.
Somehow
everything we talk about goes back to that.
Oh my God! That page is for sale. I'm selling that at cons for $70,000. So I'm just saying, if someone wants to pay me $70,000, that there's that Peanuts page that I really want to buy, and it costs $70,000. And I'm hoping to exchange it for my one piece of art I once drew once. It might not work, but hey, you gotta take a shot.
This is a good question. What's your favorite new god? And if maybe if Mr. Miracle is your favorite one, what's your second favorite?
Barda is my second favorite. We got to go down the line. Mr. Miracle is my favorite new god. I love him. I feel like my name will always be associated with him, and I'm super proud of that. And Big Barda, the wife is absolutely amazing. And if I had to pick a third, it would be Oberon's not a new god. He's technically just an earthling. So I mean, like the new god universe, like I love Funky Flashman. He's not technically a new god, but he comes from the new god universe. Like people, so if you eliminate then I would probably go. I don't know. I mean, I love Calabac. He kind of comes to mind. I don't know. I think Desaad is fun. I mean, Darkseid is the greatest villain ever introduced in any comic book ever. I mean, it's a wealth of everything. Even like the obscure, like Mantis is cool. I mean, all of them have something to them.
I love how you've written Darkseid in so many different ways, like how you write Darkseid in Mr. Miracle versus how you wrote Darkseid in Up in the Sky versus how you wrote Darkseid in Danger Street. Like you've been able to show all these different sides. Like one of the panels I have, if we want to play that game again, where I show you some of my favorite panels, is the one where Darkseid just gets up and hugs Highfather, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like this has to be big.
Danger Street is a very underrated. It's the book in terms of ratio of I'm proud of it to people have read it. I think Danger Street wins. I think that book is
really. I felt like. You don't think your most underrated is Gotham City Year One? I feel like that one was phenomenal, and like I posted that I loved that book, and like the comments were not nice to me, and I had no idea because I just read a comic as like a comic, you know.
Comments were not nice on Gotham City Year One. Well, that's because some people don't like Bradley. I don't know. Yeah, that book's fucking great.
Yeah, I love that book, and they were like, "It means you hate white people," and I was like, "What the hell are you people talking about?" But I loved Gotham City Year One, man.
You hate what? Oh, okay.
The internet. I mean, I'm sure you know the internet can be a dark place sometimes, man. But this is a corner of the internet that loves you. So.
I mean, I appreciate the passion. That's all I can say. I appreciate if you read that book and are that passionate about it. I appreciate that. I appreciate you giving it your time. No. I think even more than Gotham City Year One, which I think is read a little bit more than Danger Street in terms of people, because Danger Street, I think it's a little, Gotham City Year One is just basically a novel that happens to have pictures in it, right? Like it's a one sitting kind of thing. People understand what it is. You don't need to know anything going in. Danger Street feels like, you're just like, whoa, there's 23 different characters in Danger Street. And so you're looking at that and it looks very intimidating.
I was so happy when a D-list level hero showed up because I kind of knew that one. I was like, oh yeah, there were some obscure characters in Danger Street, and I thought I knew DC, but like then I read Danger Street and did not know what was going on. But it gave me the same kind of experience like Seven Soldiers, where it was all these characters I didn't really know about and all these different kind of things going on. And I thought it was fun how you would go from like something kind of like down to earth to like gods like trying to hold up the sky. So
yeah, I mean that's the theme of the book is the connections between all that stuff. That someone as mundane and obscure as Lady Cop, who's had one DC appearance, would be in the same book as someone as cosmic as Darkseid, and that the world Darkseid is pushing on affects Lady Cop, and even more profound that the world that Lady Cop is pushing on affects Darkseid. Is sort of that theme of that book, and how we're all connected to each other and how we all affect each other. And to me, that book it's very personal and it was a big challenge to see if I could do a book with 23 characters and make it all come together. And I'm proud to say it does.
It had like the best covers of anything you've ever done, though, right? Like some of those covers were like, even when I wasn't reading it, when it was coming out in singles, I was like, why is Darkseid a breakfast cereal? I was like, I got to read that book someday. And that's not even counting your Danger Street cover.
And that's true. Jorge Fornes, who drew that book, I've worked with amazing artists. Jorge Fornes is an artist I can take credit for discovering. I think the only one I can take credit for discovering. Where I found the guy on Twitter and said, "Do you want to draw Batman?" And I've worked with him. We did Rorschach together. We did some Batman issues together. We did Danger Street together. And I can't speak highly enough of that guy. And when I close my eyes and think of comics, I tend to think of how Jorge would draw them. I just think he's clean and perfect. To me, he's like a modern John Buscema. That's the Jorge look. And it's incredibly inspiring for me. I was just writing pages for him today in Wonder Woman, and it's great. That's no awesome. One does a pullback shot better than Jorge in comics. By pullback shot, I mean where you want the scale of your character. Like, I was writing a shot today where a guy gets thrown off a building and he's falling in front of a building. And so I was like, we pull back and you see the whole building, you see the guy falling in front of him. And I was like, that's a Jorge Fornes shot. No one will draw that better than he does.
That's awesome. That reminds me of one of my favorite shots in Human Target, where he just like he's being held up in the sky and he just like jumps down,
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Greg Smallwood might be the best artist in all of comics. So anything.
I feel like somehow every artist you've ever worked with is the best artist I've ever seen for that. It specifically works for that story. And then you write another book with a different artist and I'm like, oh my God, that's like the best art I've ever seen. So that brings us into, I want to show you some of my not new, but these are my next batch of some of my favorite panels and pages of your work. And I'm wondering if you have any context. We're going to start out with my single favorite panel in all of Up in the Sky.
All right.
Since that's what we're here to talk about. So I think this is one of the best panels in the entire book.
Oh, yeah. This was, it's funny. So for people who don't know, Up in the Sky started out as a Walmart book. And we only got 12 pages per issue. It was in the back of sort of 100-page Walmart comic book that was placed in the back shelf of the back of every Walmart, and none of them sold. And it was obscure in its own way, but it meant we had it was a very small canvas on which to approach a subject. And it also meant that each issue, probably the person wouldn't have read the issue before. So although it's one big story of, Superman going up in the sky to rescue this girl who's been kidnapped, each issue sort of survives on its own. I sort of think of it as like 12 one-shots that are stitched together, or to me, 12 Twilight Zone episodes, or 12 O. Henry stories. And because I never knew if I get to write Superman again, I put every single Superman idea I have into these 12 stories. So you get a Flash War, you get Sergeant Rock, just everything is in there. And I had to find a way to sort of tie it to the main story. And this, I've been talking forever, sorry, but this story has a fun origin. In this story, Superman this is sort of and each of them is dedicated to sort of, I don't know, a time in Superman's history, and this is like the great what if stories of the Silver Age, where Mort Weisinger would do these like, what if Superman, died in Kansas, or what if Lex Luthor had Superman's powers, that kind of thing. And so in this one, the idea was, what if Superman and Clark Kent were divided from each other? What would that mean? So like if magic lightning hits them, because that's as creative as I am. And
hey, it was red magic lightning.
It was red magic lightning, and the Superman personality was divided from the Clark Kent personality. And this actually started way back years and years ago. Now it's been like 11 years. Thanksgiving, I was with my family in LA, in Anaheim, and I got a call Thanksgiving morning, Thursday morning, being like, Tom King, this is blah, 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 the editor of Superman. And I was like, yeah, he's like, we're looking for a new writer for the Superman titles, and we want a bold new direction that'll like really pop. Can you give me a pitch like tomorrow? I was like, it's Thanksgiving. I got to come and at this time I had written probably like one comic book in my whole life. And I was like, but I was so desperate I was like, what an opportunity to write Superman. And so the pitch I came up with was this pitch. It was the idea that we were going to separate Clark Kent from Superman and see sort of, and have one book, Action Comics, be about Clark Kent's adventures, and one book, Superman itself, be about Superman's adventures, and see what that sort of meant, and how the two personalities interacted with each other. That was rejected. If you remember, they went with sort of a depowered Superman, where Greg Pak won that bake-off. But I got to take that story that was meant to be an epic, 50-issue run and condense it into 12 pages. And that's where this comes from that desperate Thanksgiving, sitting at the table being like, I need a Superman issue. I need a Superman idea in 12 hours. And that's what I came up with.
That's crazy. I'm feeling like a whole like Cats in the Cradle thing, where you're like trying to work on a page and it's like, Dad, come back to the table and eat with us.
The nice thing about being a comic book writer is when you have work, you can bring it to the family, as opposed to like, I'm going to go in my room and think about this. I can go to the Thanksgiving table and, you like, should we talk about politics? Should we talk about the food? I was like, who wants to talk about what Superman ideas are? And they was like, yeah, let's talk about that. So it can be a family affair. That's one of the good parts of a comic.
And like last time, we have a couple giveaways to do. So everyone do #Superman, and we will give away a couple copies of this book, courtesy of my comic book shop that I work at, Organic Price Books.
Look at this beauty! My God, it's gorgeous.
And
I wrote a new introduction for it.
So you did, and I read that today.
My thoughts on Superman,
which I thought was which was so interesting, because I wanted to ask the question before I came up with the question idea. Well, I stole the question from a question Mark Wade likes to ask, which is, why do you like the character Superman, or why do you think he's so important? And then I read your forward and was like, shoot, if I ask him that, it's going to seem like I didn't read the forward.
It's all right.
So I read that forward, and I just recently read the one that was the excellent one in the Batman Elmer Fudd Deluxe edition.
Oh, thanks. That means a lot to me. I've been writing a lot of forwards lately. I wrote the forward for the omnibus, the Batman omnibus, and
that's getting an omnibus.
The Batman run is getting a.
I know. I'm just kidding. I'm no.
You're fucking with me. I thought
you could have told me even after the interview. You couldn't say wait 1 week and give me like a wink. Like
no, never. I give nothing away.
You gave absolutely nothing. But that cover is awesome.
It is. It's all, yeah, the Clayman cover. I mean, you know, I have good friends. That's very nice. Yeah. So I wrote an introduction for it, but they said I gave away too much of the plot of the book in the introduction. So my introduction has become the afterwards now. And the editor of the book, Jamie Rich, is doing the introductions, which is very kind of him.
Yeah, you have a lot of awesome books coming out. So that one's cool. I think they announced the deluxe of Human Target, which is
finally,
which is going to be rad, because that one needs to be 1 volume and it needs to be oversized. That art is so rad.
So I had a debate about that. You can help me. I'll tell you what my decision was, but they came to me and they said, you know, Human Target, people know, it took a break between issue 6 and 7. This often happens in maxi series. And in that break to sort of, you know, produce more Human Target coverage, we did a Human Target special, which had sort of 3 short Human Target stories in it by incredible artists. It was Michael Hanin, it was Kevin McGuire, and it was Raphael Albuquerque, with some spot art illustrations from Greg. And that story, which is not essential to the book, was left out of the collection so far.
Okay, and I haven't read that then if it wasn't in the standard size.
So it'll be in the next collection. So they'll have more material because they'll have a whole extra, and that was a big issue. It was like a 38-page issue. And it's called like Tales of the Human Target. And it adds to the plot, but it doesn't, like, it's not necessary to the plot. And so they asked me, they're like, where do you want to put that issue? Do you want it in the middle, which is chronologically where it came up between 6 and 7, or do you want it at the end? And I had a huge debate because technically, if you're reading the story, the actual story points in there, you know, contribute to the story, but do not come after the end. They come in the middle. But to me, when I'm flipping through a book of Greg Smallwood's art, I kind of like that flipping feeling of seeing all the art for all those pages without having an interruption in the middle. And just as a book collector, that's just how I kind of feel. Like when I'm flipping through this, I love that I'm seeing Andy on every page. If I was flipping through this and in the middle I suddenly saw, you know, even like a genius like Lee Weeks in the middle, it would kind of be like a scratch on the record to me. And so I decided to go with the art experience over the story experience and put the special at the end. So you get all 12 issues of Greg, and then you get the special at the end to enhance it. But I could have gone the other way with doing in the middle.
That's an interesting debate. I can speak as a lot of the big collected edition readers. We want everything in chronological reading order. Like a lot of people that are on like the DC side of the spectrum don't like how Marvel's event omnis put the event first and then put all the tie-ins afterwards. They like how DC tends to put the things in reading order more so. But I also love the feeling of continuity in the art, you know. So I feel like I haven't read them, so I can't make a real decision, but because Human Target is on a clock, you know, there's a countdown going on in the story, there's urgency in the story, there's a limited timeline in the story that I like how concise it was, you know what I mean, in that you know, the period of time that story had to take place. So but I haven't read them. If they really did add context to the story, you know, I'm great at never giving an answer. There's a case for both, but I know a lot of people.
I see what you're saying. Your second point is what helped convince me, because Human Target is a very structured book. He dies on the first page, and then it rewinds to 12 days ago, and then each issue is a day, and literally it goes from when he wakes up to when he falls asleep. And so that was part of it, of like, if I put this between 6 and 7, you're gonna have an issue that's not a day. And to me, it would just interrupt the flow a little bit. But I can see a chronological order also making sense. I don't know. It's a tough one for me. I had the same problem with the Trinity trade that came out, where we did go chronological, because Trinity is, you know, she exists. To me, there are two versions of Trinity. There's the Trinity that Daniel Sampour draws, which is a more sort of serious actual superhero Trinity, and then there's the Trinity that Belen Ortega draws in the backups, which is a much sillier, almost cartoony Trinity. And they exist in the same timeline in theory, but to me they're it's hard to weave them together to me because they seem kind of a little different because they're so different tonally when I write.
How as a writer for something like your Batman Omni, do you feel about them including tie-ins that weren't written by you? So like, do we know yet if it's going to have the full button, or if later volumes will have like, or like the first one will have like the Monster Man, or like, I know sometimes you've written, but some like was it the Gift or the Price, the one tied into Heroes in Crisis? Like, well, you'd write like 2 Batman and 2 Flash. Like, do we know yet if those will be collected, or do you prefer it to be creator specific for an Omni?
No, for an Omni, I think it should have all of those. Well, that's not true. I think if I'm remembering correctly, and I could be remembering poorly. Yes, I mean the Monster Men things; those have my name on them. Steve Orlando was definitely in the lead, but I since I was sort of in the background reading those scripts, those definitely have to be in there. And the button, I think the whole thing has to be in there. I think the whole thing is going to be in there. The 2 issues that Josh drew that are kind of Heroes in Crisis, those will be in there. I think it would be weird without those. But like the wedding had those 4 wedding specials that didn't really have anything to do with that Tim Seeley wrote. It was a very good friend of mine. I don't think those will be in there.
That was like it would pair up like a Bat family with like a villain, right? And it was like the lead up into the wedding.
Yeah, and those I literally had nothing to do with those. Like I trust Tim completely. I was like, whatever you want to write. And so I didn't think of that. I tried to make it things that I at least contributed to. Like I didn't write every episode. I wrote only the first of the 4 button issues, but I was involved with all 3 of the other issues. And obviously, Josh and I are very good friends and talked about the sort of those 2 issues that he wrote. But yeah, I think only the wedding things are not going to be in there, but I could be wrong about that. They might have included them.
And I heard when you were talking on friend of the channel, Omar, Near Mint Conditions channel, you mentioned that other Batman things you've written will be included. Is that like in your mind, would you do your full Batman run first and then there'd be like a companion omnibus with the other Batman stories you've done? Or how would you want them to be placed in the flow of it?
Oh man, you're asking such good questions. We have a person who's approaching and has an Excel spreadsheet with all of it. Yeah, I think the Batman run will be all together. But then I mean, they're going to splice in some stuff that was a little bit on the side. Now, obviously, the annuals, and then there was like a little stuff. There was like I did a 3-page special for a Batman. I can't even remember what it was called, but it ties into the main Batman story, and it actually has a big payoff. It's where Batman, it's how he sort of solves the Gotham Girl story because he. I can't remember, but so that'll be in there, even though it was in a different Batman special. And then, Clay and I did a wedding special Joker story for Free Comic Book Day. And that will be mixed into the run together with it. But the actual things that are separate, the Batman FUD, Killing Time, Batman Catwoman, obviously.
Which I can't believe they never gave us a deluxe edition of that. You know how like I broke my rule of I keep all my oversized together and my standard size separately, but like I just put that Batman Catwoman right at the end. I was like, I can't believe they didn't give us a deluxe of that.
They just came out with the soft cover. They're moving real slow on that one because the hardcovers. Sometimes when a hardcover sells really well, they're like, this is working. Let's keep our foot on the gas. Yeah. And so that was one of those things I asked. I was like, when's the soft cover coming? We're still selling hardcovers. We're not going to until the hardcovers start slowing down. We're not going to start with soft covers. So that was a victim of success. So yeah, so those will be in the back. I'm sure I'm forgetting some other Batman series I wrote.
Let's see.
I don't think they're going to include like the 1 issue of Human Target and all that stuff.
How far do you consider the Batman umbrella? Like, would Riddler fit in there? Would
yes,
Penguin fit in there?
Bad Day would fit in there. I don't know. Penguin's a separate thing. I mean, I consider that to be part of the whole thing, but that's a good question. If they throw Penguin in the end, they probably would be my guess. Yeah. But, I mean,
and I heard rumors that
I'm still writing. So I'm still writing Batman things.
Is there? I heard rumors that maybe there was another Batman story you're working on, which I know you can't tell us anything about that, but
yeah, I just wrote a big Batman story, and I think it's one of the. I mean, of course, I'm going to say this about everything I write, but it's one of the best things I've written all year. I think I'm super proud of it, and the artist we got on it is absolutely genius. And I think, yeah, I mean, they asked me to return to the character for one big sort of one shot, and gave me the best artist I could possibly think to work with, and I was like, yeah, let's go for the moon. Let's see if we can do our Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, like a one shot that lasts a lifetime.
I'm salivating.
And that's what I went for. I went for sort of that. It was like my little I've always been an Alan Moore copycat, and this was another attempt for me to sort of to try to do what Moore did, which is you have 40 pages, you have a character, you have a perfect artist, create something that lives forever. So that's my attempt, and I hope I know it's going to be beautiful, and I think the script's pretty good too.
That's a perfect segue into a question that I wrote that my wife was like, okay, but you can't start with that question because it's too heavy. You need some icebreakers on the way. She's my better half. So
let's go heavy. I'm ready.
You like to talk about how like Omega Min, you said before, was you writing at your most Alan Moore, like who Omega's the Omega Min was your joke, and your love for like Jack Kirby is totally apparent when you use his New God characters and Fourth World characters. So I guess my question was, 10, 15, 30 years from now, if you inspired the next generation and a writer was writing at his most Tom King, what do you hope that means? Or what did you hope you've passed down? Like with themes, tropes, symbolisms, like what do you hope a writer writing at his most Tom King 30 years from now, right? Like what do you hope he learns?
Oh my God. How do I talk about that without sounding like an arrogant prick?
This is a safe space.
This is a safe space.
And besides tugging, because we hope you pass that down to the next generation.
As long as he loses the Hugo, he'll be a Tom King writer.
Yeah.
The thing that comes to, I think I probably told you this before about me and Hickman, how I sort of think of us as opposite writers. Have I told you about that?
I don't think so.
I incredibly admire what Jonathan Hickman does. I think his comics are stupendous. But I look at us as opposite writers on some sort of scale, in the fact that when I read Hickman's stuff, to me, it feels like I'm reading gods passing secrets between each other. Like I'm in the room where greater beings are talking, and I get to hear this conversation. Like he'll take a conversation between Spider-Man and Wolverine and just make you feel like it's happening in heaven. Like, I don't know how to put it. These people feel bigger than life. They feel the stakes feel bigger. Everything feels, they shine like a city on the hill. And I feel like I do the exact opposite of what Hickman does. Is I take these sort of heavenly characters and squish them down into the ground and make them feel like they live in our sort of everyday lives and have to deal with the same sort of problems and triumphs that we deal with. So I would think if someone was writing in my tradition, but I mean that's not something I created. I stole that from Bendis and Brubaker, and Mark Miller and writers and Brian K. Vaughan. But that sort of seems to me to be a part of my writing. I hope gets passed on.
That's awesome, man. And I know that, I mean, because you were clearly a writer who has like deep reverence for the previous generations and like we're inspired by so many awesome people. So that was always something I was curious about. Like, I feel like you have a way of writing, like what's cool about your writing, at least as because I'm still a newer reader, is like you can write very prose heavy, like in Woman of Tomorrow, where it's almost like reading a novel, or you can distill the language down to like Batman saying cat and then her saying bat, like you can you can both write like beautifully and long, and you can also distill it into the shortest possible essence, so I love how you can do both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restless writer, so I'm always experimenting with stuff that works and trying to push myself into different genres. I obviously I like old movies. I might be the last person who likes them. But the directors I admire, people like Robert Wise or George Stevens, are people who didn't just do one, they didn't just do I'm the best Western, I'm gonna keep doing Westerns, or I'm great at sci-fi, I'm gonna keep doing sci-fi. They did the best Western that was ever done and the best comedy that was ever done, and the best dance movie that was ever done. I just think that I don't like to limit myself to one genre or one way of working. I try to experiment with all things and see what I can do. So, I have a book called Trinity coming up. It's got a lot of gags and jokes. But at the same time,
I thought Tom King only writes sad characters.
I do. I write it. Don't worry. There's definitely sadness in it. But I like to jump around, and I like to try different techniques. I've done a silent issue, and I've done, I think you read Black Canary. There couldn't be more words on the page if you tried. And so I comics have so much potential in every issue. You have so many weapons, and I just want to use them all. I'm not a one quiver guy. I'm pulling arrows from all over the quiver. I'm trying to.
So let's give away our first copy. We only made it through one page. I wanted to show off, but let's give away some comics, man, because that's what we're all here for, is to get more people reading comics. So share screen, window. So this will be for US people because shipping's expensive, but let's draw and see who our first winner is.
Let's do it.
No whammies.
Oh man, I was rooting for Darkseid. That guy should.
Hey! He bought it today. So
bought it today? You can give one away.
Yeah. Everyone needs one to go to a friend, but he literally just finished reading that book today.
Ugh. Well, thank you. I'm glad.
We'll do more giveaways, Vanessa. So that's the whole reason I have this. It's just because I want to talk about comics and get more people reading comics. So,
and you do, and it's so much appreciated, man. You do.
Let's do our next panel.
I'm ready. Okay. I'm here. Okay. That one panel took me a half hour to talk about, so I'll try to be briefer with the next panel.
So this one, I feel like this is just such a beautiful issue. It's got to be like probably one of the most talked about issues of your Wonder Woman run.
For sure.
Where any context or any behind the scenes on this issue?
Yeah, I mean, typically before I start an arc or an issue, I always communicate with my artist. In this case, the great Daniel Simpour. What do you want to draw? What are you looking for? And I asked Daniel, what are you looking for next in this issue? And we were in the middle of sort of the first Sovereign part of it, and he said, I want to do something like All-Star Superman, that famous saving scene, where it's one of the great pages in the history of comics where Superman saves the young woman from jumping from committing suicide. So I was like, oh, well, that's that. No pressure, right? No pressure there, right?
Let me just write the most iconic Wonder Woman panel ever.
Yeah. And I said yes before I had any clue and idea, and I was beating myself up, being like, what? And I was imagining, different scenarios where Wonder Woman could save someone. And, I kept going like, oh, like someone falls down a well and she jumps, or she, how impossible could this be? And how could she save them? And I was like, none of these are working. And all of them are not half as good as what Grant and Frank did.
Did in one page.
It did in one page. Exactly. And I had 22. And I was going through thing after thing after thing, and I don't know, maybe my son was watching wrestling, so Cena jumped in my head. But I got the idea that she would sort of do the last wish, the Make-A-Wish,
Make-A-Wish, yeah.
And that someone would sort of make a wish for Wonder Woman, and that she wouldn't save them by like saving them, like jumping down a well, but she would save them by just by being there, and that idea appealed to me. I was like, okay, that I can do. That's a whole issue where she sort of, she helps a sick kid who's at the end, and does what these real heroes do for these sick children when they go in and they give them sort of a moment of happiness, a deserved moment of happiness. And that felt very Wonder Woman to me, and I thought that would meet Daniel's criteria, and it was different than what Frank and Grant had done, which was important. But it caused this one problem that I was like, I'm in the middle of this arc now. I'm on issue 4, and she's got whole armies going after her. She's just been declared illegal. It's not going to make any sense for her to stop everything she does and do a Make-A-Wish. Like that makes logically that makes no sense. And then I was like, no, wait. It makes no sense. And that's why it makes sense. That's why it's good,
because it matters to that kid, you know.
It matters to that kid. Yeah, exactly. So in the middle of the war, exactly. She does this, and that's because she's Wonder Woman, and that's what she would do. It doesn't matter to her that she's being hunted, that there's so many armies, that she's illegal now. But she would pause all of that. For one child, for one day, for one moment, and so that's what this book became, and that's what led to sort of this moment at the end here, which brings tears to my eyes. So hopefully it can bring some. If I know I'm writing well, if I'm starting to feel emotional because I just made it.
I love how comics can make you emotional though. Like I teared up in the Superman trailer today.
Oh yeah, me same. It was showing it to my youngest with him getting excited. I was like, yeah, it's cool, right? Oh yeah.
That was awesome. Up next, we got this. And I did a little Photoshop so you could see both of them side by side.
My first thought in seeing this is I still to this day have no idea who's coming down the stairs. I don't know who that character is. I think I've asked Lee. I'm not sure he knows.
What, like, was it supposed to be like, did he have an idea? Like, was it a reference to a Looney Tunes character, or?
It must be a reference to a Looney Tunes character because everyone else you're looking at is a reference to the Looney Tunes character. Obviously, it's Pepe Le Pew in the foreground there, and then there's Bugs Bunny at the bar, and then there's Porky, and you can see Foghorn Leghorn. But I don't know who's coming down the stairs. I don't know who that character is.
I also love how like the whole point of the book was that they're not Looney Tunes characters that are like animals, they're like humans, but then there's like that wolf in the background, or what's that, and like a mouse in the background, what is by that window, but everyone else is a human. But it works somehow. Like the art in this book is like how did it feel that this started out as a joke, like in your words, a dumb joke, and then it became real, and then you got an amazing artist and it became really real.
It's incredible. So the mouse in the background is an inside joke between Lee and I. So when I first wrote this book, this is how I saw it in my head. As I wrote an introduction, I was told this was a book where sort of the Looney Tunes characters come into the DC world, and in my opinion, in my vision, just like Batman, if he was going to Looney Tunes world, would turn into a cartoon. These cartoons would turn into real people if they entered our world. And that was, I don't know, that was just my instinct from day one. And everyone else who had the assignment didn't have that instinct. I was the only stupid person who didn't understand it. So including Lee Weeks, who started drawing the issue based on my script. And of course, I didn't put that in because I just thought it was obvious. Because I had never even considered the other option. And so when Lee started drawing it, he started drawing it with the animal versions of everyone. And I had to tell him, no, it's the real versions. And if you look on the first page, which was drawn before I told him, you can see there's a little like a pig going into the Porkies. That's not a human. Or it's a dog, rather. It's a little dog. And so when he got to this page, he threw in a mouse just to tease me that this was what he had originally intended. So yeah, that's an inside joke. That's Lee winking at me, changing his art in the first few pages when I told him about it.
This art, though. Let's do another one. I love this game.
Absolute perfection.
So,
yeah.
The art in this book is like the best parts of Darwin Cook with like a little hint of Bruce Timm. Like the art in this book is unbelievable.
What a gift working with Elsa is, man. I just, from this is from issue 1 of Love Everlasting, obviously, and sort of the introduction of the cowboy, who becomes a huge character as we go forward. The 3rd arc is all about the cowboy and sort of his origin story. What this mostly makes me think of is writing, is working on the Hollywood parts of this, and trying to get this scene right in the Hollywood version, having to write it over and over and over and over again. It worked so well in the comics, but I couldn't quite get it in the script correctly.
That's awesome, though. I thought it was interesting. Perfect. So I've only read the first 2 trades because I think that's all that's out collected.
Yes, there was a hiccup with the 3rd trade. It was my fault. It's coming out in September or something, which is ridiculous. There's a year delay, and it's just because of paperwork bullshit that I didn't do. It's entirely on me. And once the 3rd one's out, I'll collect all 3 of them in some sort of and of course that's only half the story. Also, I haven't written the second half. I haven't done the second half yet.
I think you mentioned that there will be a delay because she's writing something now.
Yes, Elsa is doing her own projects. She's writing and drawing them, and she's also doing some stuff with James Tynan. So I'm waiting for her to cycle back through that. Elsa knows whenever she is ready, I will have a script for her. This is one of my favorite things to write. I personally think the 2nd volume of Love Everlasting, which is kind of a random thing in my bibliography, is the best writing I've ever done. It's just in terms of me using every single technique I know of how to write comics to deliver a story like nothing else. When I look back on the thing I think is just my personal best writing, it's the 2nd volume of Love Everlasting.
Which was wild to me because the 1st volume is very much episodic, and the 2nd one, and like it tricks you into thinking, oh, it'll be episodic, and then it's not. And like, it almost reminded me of, I'm not sure if you've ever watched Rick and Morty, but like the Roy, A Life Well Lived, where it's like he's playing a video game of just someone's entire life. And I was like, I totally got that vibe, but like not in a joking sense, but
yes, it very much has sort of that vibe, or where Rick and Morty stole it from, which is the famous Star Trek Next Generation episode with the flute, mostly known for Picard's flute. I don't know what the actual episode's called, where Picard lives some other life and then wakes up at the end and he's Picard again. Yeah, it's stolen from. We're stealing from the same sources.
I love how that shows my age because I haven't watched like much I was a Star Wars kid, but like Rick and Morty I've watched, so that's where I knew it from.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I totally understand.
I thought that was great. Up next, this is besides the double date, which we talked about last time.
Brilliant.
This is my favorite. Besides the double date, this is my favorite arc in your Batman run.
Thank you. You got good taste. That's one of my favorites too.
Definitely, I feel like influenced by was it 10 Angry Men? The
12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men. There we go. And the concept of Batman having to say, like, to make sure justice is served is he has to make the jury doubt Batman, and it's just, I thought it was such a rad concept.
This started with a friend of mine, Chris Campbell, who the terrible quarterback, who's a running joke throughout the entire Batman run, is that the quarterback for the Knights is Chris Campbell, and he's horrible. Named after that same friend, because he would always brag that he played quarterback in high school, and we would make fun of him. And so this was our tribute to him. But he's one of the world's biggest Batman fans, and was sort of an ongoing consultant along with my friend Daryl Taylor on has this, when you have a story idea and you want to call someone who's read every single Batman comic and say, has this been done before? I would call Chris and Daryl. And I had asked Chris, what do you want to see? What haven't you seen before? And Chris is a lawyer. That's his day job. And he said, I want to see Batman on a jury, which was such a bizarre request. And I started thinking about that. And of course, I immediately thought 12 Angry Men were the most famous jury plot line of all time. And I thought, well, okay, so Bruce is on a jury. What does that mean? And then I was like, who's on trial? And I was like, it'd be like one of the villains is on trial, but the villain, everyone thinks the villain should be guilty because but Bruce thinks Batman made a mistake. And I was like, that's a story right there. So it was very easy to construct. The hardest part of this, and I think you see this in this page, was when you're on a jury, it's 12 people. And I didn't put the alternates on here. There's actually 14 people on most juries because of the 2 alternates. And
that was my big complaint the entire time I was reading it. I was like, has this guy ever been on trial? Like, where are the alternates?
Right? I apologize, but like I had to come up with, I guess with Bruce, 11 other characters, all of who had a distinct look and who I had to name and know where they were in the room at all times, and that was part of the challenge, and describe each of them for Lee so he could draw them as he did, which was amazing. And the way I did it was I took friends of mine, pictured them in my head, and I switched their gender so I didn't steal them directly. So each of the characters is based on a friend of mine with their gender switch. So
okay, if you ever need someone to gender swap in a comic, man, that'd be a dream come true.
I sure will. And that they're also named that. There's like I think the one that comes to mind is the woman who becomes sort of the main antagonist or whatever with Batman. I think her name is I think her name is Chris or Christy because she named her for my friend Chris. Not a different Chris in this one.
Yeah. A better quarterback.
A better quarterback, yes, indeed.
Here we go. So this one's hard to talk about without spoilers, but this is the moment my jaw dropped reading Omega Man.
Oh, yeah, wow, my God, look at that. Barnaby Begenda. I've never talked to Barnaby in my life. I've never emailed with him. He had an agent, so we never even emailed with each other. I emailed his agent. I wouldn't know him if he walked into this room right now. I wouldn't know what he looks like. So it's very bizarre to think we did a whole 12-issue series together and he killed it. Look at that, just absolutely brilliant.
This book, man, I've been wanting to read it forever. You sold me on it last time, but like out of print books aren't cheap, and it sucks because if I was giving the money to the creator, I'd pay anything for an awesome book. But when it's someone just trying to make a buck, it's harder to do. But I got an awesome deal on the only deluxe editions of yours I didn't own altogether for like less than this book goes for out of print from a YouTuber that was retiring. And,
excellent.
So I got that. I got Vision, which I had in the complete collection. I got I guess Marvel calls them OHCs. And then I didn't know your Swamp Thing was collected in a deluxe edition.
Oh yeah.
So that one, those were all awesome books. I got a killer deal on them for.
Awesome. I'm glad you found Omega Man. It's a book I'm super proud of. It was my first book. Yeah, I mean this is the heartbreaking moment where they sort of discover the sin behind what's been lurking here and what they've built, and what they're fighting for. This is I don't want to say stolen, like inspired by. I'm a huge fan of 5 Year Later Legion.
I just got that last week.
Well, if you right at the beginning, I think issue 3 or 4, Jan Era is one of the sort of legionnaires, and his entire in the beginning his entire planet has been killed off by a serial killer to Roxanne. I said Roxanne. And Jan Era was Element Land, for people who don't know. And he sort of has become the tender of the graves because he's the last survivor of his planet, and they have a sort of a fame, or at least famous to me, shot of him with the graves, and that was on my mind when I was writing this. Sort of a call out or inspiration from Keith Giffen, and of course, for people who don't know, the 5 Year Later Legion was on the 12-panel grid, as was Omega Men, so it was kind of, I was paying tribute to a person I was tributing. So
like Legion and X-Men are like my two biggest blind spots, to the point where like sometimes when I do live streams with other YouTubers, they'll play a game called like Real or Fake X-Men or Real or Fake Legion, where they'll give me like 2 Legion characters and then a third random made up name. And I have to guess who's like, because like the Legion are so wacky and like the X-Men are so wacky, and there's so much history and there's so many reboots and all that stuff. Like it's like, yeah, it's so that's a fun game that I like to play with my friends. And I almost don't want to read Legion or X-Men because it would ruin that game,
Legion was that was my nerd when I was a kid, where I like wanted to collect the full run and get as many issues as far back as I could afford them. And I just had long box after long box of collecting all of them back into the 60s when they became sort of unaffordable. Trying to get a complete collection, with like little checklists and going to different Comic Cons and stores, trying to fill it in. I adore the Legion of Superheroes, and I've never gotten a chance to write them ever. Which I wrote one one page of Saturn Girl in the Batman run in the button, and that was it. And there's I have no plans to write them. I've told DC 1,000 times, but I just can't get a hold of them.
They're supposed to. I think I heard Mark Waid say that they're coming back not too long. So, yeah, I just like is 5 years later. Is that it feels like a bad place to start my Legion reading though, because I should start like 5 years before, I'd imagine. But I also like a joke people never let me live down is I bought all 3 Lazarus Deluxe editions and I accidentally read volume 2 thinking it was volume 1. And I was like, wow, they're just throwing me into this world, and the internet never let me forget. So like whenever I'm talking about like books in a set, they're like, did you read them in the right order? So
I would read the Baxter run before I would read 5 Years Later. I'd start with what they call the Baxter run, which is sort of halfway through Paul Levitz's run. They started Legion over as a direct sales comic. I mean, they directly sold them to comic book stores and not on the newsstand. And because they did that, they could charge a little more and do it a little better paper. And that's called the Baxter run. And it starts with issue 1. I think go through issues like 60 something, like 62 or 3 or something like that. And those comics are gold, and they have been not collected. They're like the first 20 issues are collected in soft covers. Depressingly, I hate DC is finally correcting this, and I have been begging them, but they're how they've collected the Legion over the years has been abysmal to me.
Because I think I heard you complain that 5 Years Later is only in an omnibus, and then you said other ones are only soft. What's your preferred reading format? Like, because my favorite is absolute editions, as I've told you before, but like, you need to read that at a table. What's your favorite format?
I mean, it's such a great question. And it depends. I mean, I would say that my old favorite format was the oversized hardcover that contains 12 issues.
Like the DC Rebirth Deluxes?
The DC, to me, when I first got back into comics, because I fell out of comics around 1996, and I came back in around 2002, 2003, 2004. And Marvel used to do, I can see them up my shelf, that's why I'm looking behind me. They would do trades for 6s, and then every 12 issues, they would do an oversized hardcover.
Like your Vision was collected in, right?
Like my Vision, but a little bigger than that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to show my whole shelf because I can see them up there. But I think famously the oversized Invincibles are done that way, and the Walking Deads are done that way. I love that format. It's just a little bigger. You get 12 issues at a time. You can sit down and read it as a book. That I think
it's not library size though, right? Or is it library size?
It's like a little bigger than this, just a little bigger.
Okay.
But it collects 12 issues at a time. I think that's wonderful, and it's got glossy paper, which makes everything shine wonderfully. I very much have enjoyed recently these sort of fake omnibuses that DC is doing. They're doing them for the American Best Comics. Have you seen those where you can get all of Tom Strong?
Oh, so the compendiums.
The compendiums, is that what they're calling them?
Sometimes they even spell compendium correctly on the book. I
thought I had one.
I have non-DC compendiums, but I can grab one. Like I have the Usagi's in their compendium size. I can grab one.
They're like regular comic book size, but they're almost as thick as a phone book. Here's my extraordinary gentleman one. This size, this thing. I'll vamp for people. This is wonderful. Here's mine.
Oh, okay, yeah. So when they call it like an omnibus, like Dark Horse will do that with like Hellboy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what are these things called?
Now's the time to link my. Now's the time to link my video.
So much content. This is a whole Saturday and Sunday, and you don't have to get up. Yeah, that's a little too big for me. Although I do like the ones they just did for G.I. Joe, which are so light. Have you seen? I think we talked about that last time. They're so cool.
I mean, you could the G.I. Joe ones are gone, but you can get the Transformer ones at Organic Price Books. Link down below.
Oh,
use code Braveboys.
So yeah, this is a new format that I just read. Animal Man came out in this format, the Grant Morrison Animal Man, and it was a joy.
They just did Dark Knight's Metal in the compendium format, which is So here's my thing. I love compendiums, and I think they're an excellent value. It's how I read Sweet Tooth when I was first starting out, and I couldn't afford the deluxe editions. So I've always liked compendiums. And I think they're good for DC to test out what will sell. So we got Superman War World as a compendium, and now we're getting an omnibus. But sometimes online, people will be like, every compendium I've had turned to dust just by looking at it or opening it. I think DC's compendiums are super well produced. Images can be up or down, but the DC compendiums, I mean, I don't know how hard people they're wrestling their books when they read them, but I've never had a compendium fall apart on me.
I am of the opinion. No, don't get me wrong. I'm a shelf porn kind of guy. I love seeing books, but I do love a good trade that you can kind of fuck up a little bit. Like, yeah. Like when I'm reading something, I have 3 kids and a dog. Like, I'm gonna drop this thing. There's just soda's gonna spill on it. Like, when I'm actually just want to sit and read a comic and I don't want to worry about that book being perfect, I like that it's a little cheaper price point, that the paper's a little cheaper, that like I don't have to worry about that stuff. And then at the end of the day, I dog ear my books. I know that's horrible in comics, but I do dog ear them.
I dog-eared your Once Uncrowded Sky today, but you don't get royalties, so who cares, right?
You dog ear away. I'm all for it. I like to, I like books that look like they get read, because then, when I pick them off the shelf later on and I see, oh my God, like this book got some love, and it makes me feel,
don't judge me, but look how well loved my Rorschach is.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's a book that has some character to it.
What's that quote? I forget who the cartoonist was. Was it Charles Schultz who like drew an image for like drawing for a kid and they ate it, and he said it was the proudest accomplishment of his life?
Sounds like something Schultz would say. Like here's you look like this is my original Paul Smith X-Men that I brought with me to summer camp when I was a kid. Like you can see it's all creased up and looks terrible, and the cover's jumping off. But that means it brings back memories of me sitting on a bunk bed reading that thing in the middle of the night.
I'm not sure if you've seen them. I'm trying to see if I can find one. But Rick Remender and Ghost Machine have been putting out like these deluxes that are like almost they're shorter than absolutes, but bigger than deluxe editions, and like it's the perfect size book to me. Do I see one? Yeah, though. So I do like oversized, but I feel like if everything's oversized and inaccessible, like I want comics to be affordable for new readers. Like my biggest videos and the most loved videos I've done have been on the compact comics, and that's because like they're affordable.
Oh, dude, don't get me started on compact comics.
I know they didn't pick you.
They have not picked one of mine yet, and I have complained. I want some compact comics. I am incredibly jealous of all the people who have the compact comics.
I actually got one of them early because Mark Waid was selling signed compact comics of Kingdom Come. So I got my absolute sign and then bought a compact of it just because I love different sizes of the same book.
Wonderful.
And I think I asked you said you'd want Rorschach as your compact, right?
Yeah, but now I want them all.
Where's my Danger Street compact?
Where's my Danger Street compact? Or Supergirl again. Supergirl Up in the Sky. Books you can give out to anybody, but for $10 you go into a comic book store and you get Supergirl. That's perfect. That's wonderful.
That's awesome, man. And I love that they've been accessible. How are we doing on time, man? I know you're not feeling too well today.
I'm okay. Yeah, I've recovered from my sick. I'm good. We can keep going. You have more panels?
Oh, I always got more panels, man. Let's keep this going.
You'll hear more obnoxious stories of behind the scenes action.
So this was one of the most surprising books of the year for me. Because
oh God, I love this. Look at Ryan's sick. Perfect art. Just perfect.
So good. I mean, I feel like this book had so much like I felt every emotion reading this book, and I actually just read the last issue today. So I think an easy way to sell it is like the impossible situation that she's in, where either outcome she loses, you know what I mean, in some way. Yeah. Yeah. And I thought like even up to the last couple pages, I was like, what's she gonna do? Because I knew she had to find some way to, not lose in terms of the situations that she was being presented with. And I thought that it was an awesome answer to that, but like so good, man. I'm sober, but I was like, I want a drinking game of every time he says "my oh my apple pie." And it was right after I read your Superman forward where you talked about blueberry pie. So I was like, man, Tom King really likes pie.
The funny thing is, I'm not a pie person. I don't really enjoy pie. It's not my thing. Yes, I love this series, and the reason you didn't know how I was going is in writing it, I didn't know how it was in. I had set up an impossible problem, and it's one of those books I wrote all at once. I wrote 6 weeks. And I honestly, I was like, I don't know how she's going to get out of this. I didn't. Is she going to lose? Is she going to win? I, as the writer, was following the characters and what they would do, and I was uncertain of what she would do at the end of the book. And the ending surprised me, if it surprised you, because I didn't see it coming. And when I finally thought, oh, that's what she does. That's how she ends it. And then it's very funny because it took Sook 3 to 4 years to draw this book. So I wrote this back in 2021-ish. And so by the time it hit me and I got the letters, I had not read it in 3 or 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And I remember reading the last issue, and I mean, of course, I remembered how it ended, but I didn't remember sort of the emotions of it. And I was reading, and I was on a plane, and someone sent me the letters, and I got a little teary-eyed, being like, "Oh man!" I was like, "All right, this hit me. It's hit me hard." Just her shouting what she shouts. But yes, this moment here, where there's obviously a mother-daughter moment, but what it's actually taken from is when I was in college. I decided I went to Columbia in New York, and there's a PE requirement at Columbia, and I was an efficient young man. I took like lifeguard training because I was like, oh, I'll be a lifeguard. I'll learn an actual skill and make some money over the summer. And we took it from this Coast Guard, retired Coast Guard, grizzled guy, and he drilled us until we were dying. We had to swim so much and swim so hard, and I was never that great a swimmer. And this was one of the exercises we had to do. We would go in the pool, we'd tread water, and he would throw a brick at us, and we'd have to catch the brick and hold it above our heads.
Oh my! That sounds like he was just an angry dude, man. Was he trying to save lives, or was he? He was just really swimming.
He was putting us through Coast Guard training. This is what they did in the Coast Guard.
Tell me he was drinking like in Jaws. Like, they would just never stop drinking it. I want that. Him to be like a Jaws character.
He was Coast Guard. They don't joke when it comes to swimming, man. Ask any Coast Guard, man. Those guys train hard in the water. This was an actual training exercise I did when I was in 19 and in much better shape. But the brick was obviously probably smaller than the one she's catching and not.
No. Tell the internet the brick was way bigger that you had to swim with.
And it was not dropped from 15 feet. It was dropped like 3 feet, but from the diving board down. But I very much remember being like, oh my god! And I think you had to tread for a minute holding the brick above your head, which was very hard because obviously when you tread water, you use your hands do most of the work. So just doing it with your legs was really hard.
I was torn between this page and I like this one because it shows the relationship between mother and daughter, which is I think the core part of this book. But I also loved in the first issue that double page spread of all her friends at home watching the fight. That's such an iconic page.
Yeah, that's Ryan Sook. Just sometimes like. It's like a let me clear my throat moment. Like just artists are like let me show why I'm the best there is at what I do, and what I do is drawing. It's like Wolverine, and then that's Ryan Sook just showing off, and it's brilliant.
The art was perfect in this. And then I think this is the last one I have. So this was just mentioned this earlier. I was like something I never thought I'd see in a comic book. Yeah,
I mean this is first of all, you can't speak highly of Jorge Fornes and what he's doing here, and the humanity and the Kirby structure of it all, and the moment, and we talked about before with me and Hickman, like these are two gods, and I give them a very human moment of being scared and hugging each other. It's almost like a direct metaphor for what I was talking about. And I mean, just storytelling wise, for all you storytellers out here, this is. You want to show that your story has high stakes, that things will happen in that story that you've never seen before. And so you have Highfather and Darkseid talking about it. Highfather and Darkseid have spent the last 50 years fighting with each other. Every single fight scene that's ever happened between them has happened. And so if you're going to have a page where you want to raise the stakes and make your audience gasp, have them not fight, have them hug, have them be shocked. That's undermine expectations, and that raises the stakes.
Yeah, that was not what I was expecting to happen in that moment,
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Let's give away one more copy of your awesome Superman book. And while we do that, I want to ask one last question. So without spoiling anything, one of my favorite parts of Up in the Sky, and I think the part that feels like the reward at the end of the journey, is when Superman gets to answer every question that the audience might have asked, wanted to ask Superman, and you get to respond in the most Superman way. So I want to know for the chat, if you guys have ever wanted to ask Superman a question, because I asked you last time, what would you ask Superman? Now I want to ask the chat, what would they ask, and see if you, Tom, can answer as Superman.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
So
this is I like this. It's a good challenge.
Yeah.
So if anyone in the chat comes in, got a question for Superman, I will try to answer the way Superman would have answered. I'll channel my inner Superman. I love writing him. I got to write a little bit of him just today. Just a touch.
Oh, we got a super chat. Sir Tom, have you read Secret History of Wonder Woman? She doesn't get enough credit for her research. Thank you for your interpretation of the Princess of Paradise.
Yes, I have, and she doesn't get enough. In fact, I have a statue from that run up in my daughter's room. So yeah, it doesn't. That's a very cool run.
So we have 36 people watching and 17 entries. Also, go ahead and smash that like button so the algorithm knows that you guys like me. That'd be nice. So our first question is, Superman, what happens when an immovable object meets an unstoppable force?
They find a compromise, I think Superman would say.
That's not bad.
They find a way to live together.
Superman, as the ultimate babyface, how do you feel about John Cena's heel turn?
You know what? I always could see him. So I knew it was a lie all along.
Heck yeah, man. Is there and then let's see, what else did I have to ask? While we're doing this. I think we knew it was a reference to All-Star Superman, but he's a different writer. Tom doesn't always parody or steal from other writers. He creates his own things. If Superman had the ability to be any kind of tree. Okay, ask a real Superman question. You guys are letting me down. You can ask Superman anything. Okay, my son wants to know, why do you wear your underwear on the outside? He refuses to let it go.
I think the honest answer is the true answer, which is when Joe Shuster first created Superman, he modeled him after professional wrestlers and circus performers, because it was obviously Superman was intended as a comic, and he said that those always made children smile. And I think by Superman wearing his shorts on the inside, he's a very intimidating figure. He's a huge godlike figure, but if he can dress in a way that makes them smile and appeal to children, and make them less afraid as he approaches them, and I think the trunks on the outside work in that way.
I think I read that story about I don't know how much is true because you can never trust the internet, but of David Cornsweat saying he thinks Superman should have trunks for that same reason, and I'm just so excited for it. I had one question I wanted to ask you last time that I didn't get to, and I don't know how much you can talk about it, but Nightwing has always been my favorite character. You clearly have great love for the character with Grayson, which, as I told you last time, is what I named my cat, because my wife, she said no to the name Dick. I heard, so no one seemed thrilled about the Rick arc, but I heard that you had a different pitch for what you wanted, about Tim Drake and Nightwing. Is there any truth to that internet rumor? Anything that you can say about your pitch about Tim Drake possibly stepping up for Nightwing for an arc, or is that?
That was my pitch at the time that I gave to DC. It was never intended to be like a long-term thing. He was supposed to get shot, injured, and come back in like I thought like 6 issues. And the pitch I would have done, and I think I would have loved to have written, but probably the time I didn't have time because of the double ship Batman, would be the idea that he would be, like a stroke victim. He'd be recovering and learning to walk again, and learning to talk again. And while he did that, Tim would take his place as Nightwing, and then he would sort of come home at night and sort of help his brother recover as he was doing this. And it would be this story about 2 brothers bonding over each other, inspired by my uncle had a stroke in his 60s, and my mother had to sort of go back and teach him, like, how to walk and talk again. And so yeah, that was the pitch I had to make it into a Tim story. And I think it would just been fascinating to see Tim in the Nightwing uniforms and see sort of what difference he was than Dick, and him taking on a different kind of mantle. Yeah, that was my pitch. They went a different way.
I've always loved how, like, you'll see other characters step in the mantle of, like, Nightwing being Batman, but I would have loved to have seen, like, what would it like to be a Nightwing that, was really Tim Drake. So we have this one.
As Dick, who stepped in the Batman costume so many times, have someone step into his costume, that was just, there was interest there.
And I feel like it almost shows that, like, he's made it, because the way Gotham needs a Batman, Bloodhaven needs a Nightwing, and that mantle, the mantle matters. Superman, why does Supergirl keep changing outfits?
It's such an obvious answer that Supergirl is not one person. She changes as she grows, and she's a complicated human being of many dimensions, and her outfits often reflect her as she changes and as she grows and as she experiments. And that's what makes Supergirl cool. What was the second part of that? I thought there was a second part.
Oh, it was what's his favorite outfit for her, or his favorite look for her?
Oh, obviously the one Bilkis drew in our book in Woman of Tomorrow, because Superman is a huge Bilkis fan. First in line at her con every time, as everyone should be.
What's the likelihood that we'll get that in, like, a library edition someday? Like,
I mean, I can't speak for DC, but I hope that book goes as far and wide as.
Oh, I meant Helen. So because
Helen.
Yeah, what's the likelihood that we'll get a library edition for Helen of Windhorn?
I mean, there's going to be other editions of Helen. Yeah, there's going to be. We're going to push that. I mean, that book is a little bit of a phenomenon, so we're going to make sure that people see it. And I personally think that that the Bilkis art in that book was the best comic book art of the year. I'm not going to speak for the writing at all, but I think it was the pinnacle of comic book art this year, and I hope she wins all the awards for it.
I want an artist edition of that book.
Yeah, I cannot stress enough that I just think she blew everything out of the water.
Let's give away another copy of Superman Up in the Sky. Or if you're like Bat Cato and you already won one, you can choose a different Tom King book that's in print. I'm not hunting down a copy of Omega Men for you, but we'll get you something in print.
We'll get you Commandy. All right, this is it. It's gonna go for.
Wow.
Good job, Buckmaster.
My dear friend.
Was Fix was in, just like the NBA draft. Fix was in.
That's just how small my audience is. I personally know my viewers.
That's awesome.
Bunk awesome. Is a friend. I'm excited. We're gonna meet in person at Heroes Con this year.
Love Heroes Con. I used to do it every year. I miss doing it.
Yep. And now you're not doing it the year that I'm going. It's cool. You knew I was gonna be there, so you didn't want to go. You didn't go to WonderCon.
If you go to the Heroes Con auction, I used to play this game, Heroes Con auction. Very fun. You have to play with a friend. If you're into comic art, which I am. So the Heroes Con has a big art auction every year. It's like one of the stand and almost all the comic pros go and they sit down, you drink and you watch people buy art. And so you play a game with a friend where you take turns. One of you picks a number and then the other one has to say over or under. And then depending, if it's over or under, who wins that, and you gather the points, or you do it as a drinking game or however. But it's a way to make the auction a little more cool and exciting. That's my Heroes Con recommendation.
Do you have a favorite piece of original art in your collection? I know that's probably like super hard to choose, but.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I have things that are personal to me that are, a ton, like I have I have 6 pages from the first comic I ever read, and I have a page from Whatever Happened to the Man Tomorrow, and those probably mean more to me than the more expensive ones. Yeah,
it's awesome, man. Well, oh, look at everyone's excited. Rigged. Way to go, Bunk.
Way to go, Punk.
Oh, we talking about the NBA draft? It's ridiculous that the Mavs are. I don't know sports that much.
It is ridiculous. You're right. They had a 1.6% chance. My Washington Wizards had a 25% chance and ended up with the 6th pick. So, good day to be a Washington fan.
I don't know what that means, but I support you.
Thank you.
And I'm proud to give you this platform to talk about it.
I appreciate it. Not enough people talk about sports. That must be.
I feel like I also like I've never like watched wrestling, but the crossover between comic book fans and wrestling fans is like massive.
Love wrestling. I watch it.
Sorry, you are a Wizards fan.
I'm sorry too. I'm not a big Wizards fan. I grew up a Lakers fan. They're still in my heart. No, it's not a great time to be a Lakers fan either, as they just went out in the first round in 5. But my son is a Wizards fan. I'm obviously Washington DC bound, and Washington DC sports are stink. They're terrible. Although the Commanders obviously had a good year. So,
well, that's awesome, man. Is there anything that you want to plug that you're working on, or anything that you have coming out soon? Besides this amazing Up in the Sky that is for sale and linked down below.
That's the main thing. Buy this book if you just want pure good Superman stories that you can read with your kids. That's the book. It's got beautiful Andy Kubert art, and it's one of the best things I've ever done. And I think that it's funny, but it'll also make you cry. I have a new series launching. It's on order. You can cut. It's called Trinity. It's with Belena Ortega on art. I absolutely adore it. It's about Wonder Woman's daughter, 3 versions of her daughter who all meet: the teenage version, the 6-year-old version, and the 20-year-old version. And it has the stupidest plot I've ever come up with, and I love it so much. A bunch of corgis have been released into the time stream, and they're chasing them throughout all of DC history. So we're going to go to Crisis on Infinite Earths. There's going to be an issue. There's an issue that takes place during the Bat Wedding, the famous Bat Wedding that I did. There's an issue that takes place when Jason died, but it's just about these Trinity chasing corgis through this whole thing, and it's absurd and it's funny and it's heart-wrenching, and it's about fathers and daughters and about sisters, and I can't love it more. I hope you pick it up.
I think you gave me a sneak peek last time. You said there's that one panel where they go to Gotham and it just says Gotham.
Yes, it says Gotham, dark and scary.
Dark and scary. I can't wait.
It has a mouse holding a finger in his mouth. I just got the letters today. Yes.
That's awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you so much. You are always welcome back on the show anytime you need to plug a collected edition or anything, man.
But mostly just buy this thing. Just get this thing. Just look at this. This is
it's so good. This book was out of print for so long. I think I told you.
It's the summer of Superman. Let's read some Superman comics. That's what I've been doing. Let's read some Superman.
It's awesome. I'm really hoping that movie inspires more people to go out and read Superman for the very first time. And I can't think of, because I feel like so many other iconic Superman stories are either his origin or his death. So this is an iconic story that's not an origin or death, which I think is very, very, very special. So thank you so much, everyone. Keep reading and stay brave.
Appreciate you. I'm going to run because I have to go take care of my children.
Bye, man. Thank you so much.
Take care of you all. Thank you guys.
Deep within a bleak and dismal swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time. The Legion of Doom.